My name's Amin. I live in East London, as you've just heard. And I'm a contractor, freelancer, independent type person. I say type because usually then the roles I end up in are like either officer or specialist or analyst, but it always ends up being you're filling in for somebody because they're looking for a permanent member of staff, or there's a lot of business as usual work that's kind of overflowing and you say, look, can you come and handle that for us? So that's who I am. I started out in the world of desktop support back in the days. I wonder who remembers the lovely Windows 3.11, and it was good times because you used to kind of go in and print your calls out and actually go through the building and fix people's PCs, and you know what? People actually said thanks to you. I haven't heard that in InfoSec for years. People don't like me in InfoSec. But that's how I started out, and those were fun times. And I kind of fell into InfoSec. That was the best kind of picture I could put it. I didn't literally fall, but during some of the work that I was doing as a desktop support engineer, my boss asked me one day, oh, do you want to come up and help me out with an investigation? Come on. I don't know, all these latecomers. So basically, I'm just doing the intro, so I haven't missed much. But I was just saying how I fell into InfoSec. And essentially it was, careful. I forgot to press that, sorry. So I fell into InfoSec. Basically, my boss said, look, we're doing an investigation. Do you want to come along and help? I was like, ooh, investigation. Sounds quite cool. Considering at the time I was working for what used to be known as Customs and Excise, before they turned it into HMRC, and in the National Investigation Service. So essentially supporting the guys that used to go out and do the raids and the knocks and used to kind of, some of them infiltrated the gangs, etc. So it were interesting times, and it turned out that there was an investigation going on and there was some evidence being compiled, but somebody who worked for Customs and Excise, let's just say he was kind of rogue, and he was supplying some of the information back to the people that they were supposed to be investigating. So we had to kind of run up and in the dead of night do an image of his server and all those sorts of things and kind of present the evidence. But it was through that I got a bit of the bug for the InfoSec side of things. And I thought, this is quite interesting. It's a little bit different from desktop support. I've done that for a while now, and I'll kind of move into InfoSec. So before I kind of go on, I'll just say what it doesn't contain. I'm not superly technical, so this is not going to be a hacker type talk. But what it does contain is how to kind of be an effective member of an InfoSec team within the kind of corporate environment. It's based on my experience over the years as a contractor, having seen good InfoSec and bad InfoSec. And I call it popping your bubble in the corporate environment. Because I wrote an article last year and somebody said, oh, that might be a good presentation. So I thought, let me see what I can do. And you're thinking, well, what the hell are you talking about? What are these bubbles? I don't get what you're talking about. But as I'll go on, hopefully I'll kind of, elucidate a bit more and we'll kind of, you'll get the message in the end. So, a not so uncommon day for me, and lots of people I've worked with in InfoSec, kind of turns out there's a number of things that you do, and then you kind of go into work and you're in your routine. So imagine that you're the kind of in the middle there, the InfoSec Pro, and you go in and you have your meetings, the meetings that you have planned in your Outlook calendar, the meetings that come up, and when somebody knocks on your door or kind of stands by your desks and goes like that, or starts kind of saying, Mo, are you free? Are you free? Those sorts of meetings. So it's one of the things that kind of takes up your day. The other thing that I've kind of noticed is incidents. You can't plan these because they'll just happen and then you have to kind of deal with them, and then your day turns into an incident because that's all you're dealing with. Third-party reviews I've done loads of, and again, those that you know about and those that you don't, and you get involved in those, and this is slowly beginning to kind of build your day. projects. I've done lots of work on projects as a security consultant analyst and kind of convincing the right people that they should be engaging security from the beginning and then having the arguments that, oh, well, you might well need a pen test here, etc., and then kind of getting the right people to budget all those in. So this is kind of slowly, it's beginning to build into a day of a corporate InfoSec person. I'll press that. Oh, here we go. I've had lots of fun with document reviews. Oh, Mo, can you review that? Can you review this? And then when you make changes, you have the other arguments of, oh, well, you want us to do this, but we've already kind of rolled it out, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm slowly building up to kind of the typical things that I've done. And then there's reporting, so whether it's like reporting to management or reporting to on projects, et cetera, you kind of get involved. But there's a method to my kind of showing you what some people do within the enterprise environment if you're an InfoSec person. So if you look at that, you kind of go through your day and it's usually something around those. There may have been other kind of spikes I could have put in there, but I thought these are the ones that I've kind of mostly seen and mostly done. So if you kind of think about that for a second, I mean, I'm not sure if anybody wants to put their hand up, but is there a pattern here? I mean, I'm basing it on my experience, but you go in and you do your thing and you kind of go home. Your kind of not so uncommon day becomes your business as usual. You're in your bubble. So essentially, it becomes routine for you. And you know when, who knows the picture in the background? Does anybody recognize that? Sorry? Yeah, it is. But do you recognize the quote if I say, there you go, see? And people often, they quote him so much. You know, if you know your enemy and if you know your environment, you won't lose 100 battles and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but the thing is, in the business world, you don't know you don't know your own environment, let alone the enemy. So you're saying, well, okay then, well, what do you do? What do you do? How do you actually pop your bubble? So the next part, hopefully, I'm going to kind of extrapolate a bit more. So take a typical environment. You've got these lovely bubbly type circles I drew. You've got legal and HR and finance and the rest of the departments, typical ones. There's one word in there that you have to kind of be cognizant of. You're in your bubble, but guess what? So are those. They have their own issues and kind of bubbly type problems to deal with. So you're not the only person who's going in to do their job to go home. That's what most people do. So as InfoSec pros, we need to be cognizant of that. We can't just kind of go and knock on people's doors and say, right, well, you should be doing X, Y, and Z, because essentially they're being measured on different things. They have their own targets. They have their own culture. They have their own team dynamics and the politics within those. Their own measurables. So one of them, kind of the messages that I'd like for people to take away is that as InfoSec people, we need to be able to appreciate that it's not just us who are in our bubbles. I worked in some places where in the security team, the tech guys don't even like the InfoSec guys. There's been occasions when people, you know, you're supposed to be liaising with each other and talking to each other and kind of spreading the message to the business about why you should have, you know, why you should build security into things. But if the people that are supposed to be doing that can't communicate with each other, we've got a problem. There's been a couple, more than one place where I've kind of, as a contractor, I've landed in there and I've gone to the techie guys to talk about something. And my work is usually in that side of things. And they say, oh, you're the first one who's actually come to talk to us and kind of actually get into the depths of things and ask technical questions and kind of probe certain things. The other guys haven't. I'm like, really? Why is that? And they say, well, you know, they come along and say, well, we do the policies, we're doing the awareness, we're doing the ISO stuff, and you guys always on the command line, et cetera, doing all the proxy stuff, all the technical side of things, and they have never approached us. I said, well, have you approached them? And I said, well, no. Well, it's a two-way thing. So the point is that everybody's in their little bubble. They do their thing. But if it's in an InfoSec department and then those two don't talk to each other, then I think there are problems. Because if you can't do it within the InfoSec department, how do you convince the business that you should build security into things? So I thought, you know what? It's a hard sell, this talk, right? It's not technical, it's not rock star-y, but I'll try and introduce a bit of a game into it. So who wants to play a bit of a game? Oh, good. I was hoping for that. So I found these cool little icons, right? And they looked not like people that I've worked with, but I thought, you could place kind of possibly which department they might belong to, right? So yeah, I'm getting a few laughs, so I'm seeing some people probably recognize, potentially. So I'll go into what the arrows mean in a bit, but just for the bit of fun's sake, on the top left, who's going to kind of be bold enough to say, well, where do you think she fits in? What department?
Finance, legal.
All right, so yes, she was HR. Because when I found the icons, I thought, yeah, she looks like an HR person. What about the dude in the middle?
Sales.
Okay, let's have a look. I was sales. Here we are. What about the lady on the right?
The lady?
Well,
Creative team. Legal press.
so I heard somebody call the right one out. Let's have a look. PR. What about the one on the bottom left?
Dead.
I was going for, he did remind me of Steve Jobs, so I thought, okay, well then he might well be kind of in that category, potentially. Well, I was being a bit more positive, but yes. The dude in the middle. And then, well, possibly, but he resonated with IT for me, so I bunged him in there. And then the guy, the fun-looking guy on the pop-up right. Yeah, he was finance. So that was a bit of, I wanted to make it lighthearted because it is, it's a difficult topic to talk about, and I hope I got that across. But the arrows, and then the InfoSec Pro in the middle, is like you, me, whoever works in the department. But the arrows are that the message I'm trying to get across is you should be, or the InfoSec department should be the one that reaches out to those departments. Or I've put a few here, there are others in an environment, but you should be making the effort to say, right, okay, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and go and talk to people, find out what they do on a daily basis, because whenever I kind of start a new role, I go and actually kind of introduce myself. I buy people a coffee, take bags of jelly babies around, build that relationship at the beginning with as many departments as I can, with their heads ideally, but if they're not available, because usually they've got their calendar booked out and you can't get into them. But if you can actually go and talk to the people and say, right, what do you face on a daily basis? What sort of issues do you face? I'm talking specifically from personal experience, and people have said, you know what, it's very rare for your department to come and engage with us. We like the fact that you've just come to us and introduced yourself to us, and kind of, you're open. And that's what I think you have to be like that. You have to kind of make those kind of moves. When I was in desktop support, I went into a room once and they had a whiteboard, right? And it said hit list on it. And guess which department was the top? IT, right? And there I am, I've got a call sheet in my hand, I'm going to fix somebody's PC, and I'm like, what? And one of the guys said, where are you from? I said, look, I'm coming here to fix so-and-so's PC, can you point him to the right, point me in the right direction? And then I said, look, why have you got IT as a hit list? Because you know what? You lot come in here, right? You say you fix something, and then you get lost and nothing's fixed. Or whenever we call you, you kind of fob us off with things. And I thought, okay, well, something's got to change. And then from that day on, I kind of, even though I didn't have a call to fix, I went and talked to them, right? Every other day, just a bit of kind of light chat, a bit of social engineering, if you want to call it that, but building the right relationship, right? And they took us off the whiteboard, so it was all right. And then they started calling me, hey, Magic Mo, how you doing? right? Because I was always there, so whenever they rang, I picked it up, and whenever they could, if they saw me in the canteen, they asked, oh, look, I know the call's not logged, but would you have a look? And it's that, and that's the same thing I've brought into InfoSec, and I think as people who work in the industry, we need to do that. We need to actually kind of, yes, our jobs are stressful and we have our own objectives, but if you're going to build the right relationships, you've got to go and do it. The point in case is a lot of times when people sit through kind of meetings and they don't introduce each other, they don't kind of do the right sort of communications, and I've been into kind of situations where I've gone and kind of sat in meetings that weren't even, I didn't have to be there, but they said, oh, cheers, InfoSec guy, you know, we can come to you about this. And you know, people talk about this, I don't like this anymore, to be honest, I never really liked it, but people, processes, and technologies, I think that, you know, we all know which one's the most important one out of those, right? But there's only one that really kind of actually matters. And it's that one. It's always down to the people. It's always down to kind of building the right relationships. So I looked at that politics. I looked at the personalities, the people, process, and technology, and I thought, there's something that's even more critical than that. It's personalities, politics, and trust. Because if you don't understand the kind of lay of the land within the environment that you're in, and you don't understand the kind of interdynamics within the teams and the cultural issues, the rest of it doesn't really matter, because you're not going to be able to fit in. You're not going to be able to say, right, you know what, if I talk to so-and-so about this, that might not go off. If I'm talking to a project manager about building security in from the beginning, or if I'm going to the techie team to talk to about a change, I need to have built those relationships in the beginning. I need to understand those three, because that's the key thing, trust. You've got to build that up. So as I kind of slowly wind down, I've got a few takeaways. So over the years, I've seen kind of good InfoSec and bad InfoSec, and then somewhere in the middle. And people have been kind of talking about brand the InfoSec department. But in my head, I've had that for a while, and I've been talking about it to a few people over the last few years. Because essentially, you do need to kind of get out there and market yourselves. And I've always said, kind of become your own little startup. Think of it like that. Think of it like you should be kind of dynamic and actually build security out and give a name to it. Create content that, when I say pull, what I'm talking about is you're always kind of sending things to people and say, all right, well, you should come to this presentation, you should kind of read these emails, etc., etc. But if you flip it around and create engaging content that's suitable for everybody and has different messages for different levels, and put it out there, and then if you branded yourself properly, people will come and pull it and actually look at it themselves and view it themselves, rather than you saying, right, do this, this is security, because they've got their daily job to do. And to bring out the personalities bit, this may work for some places, it might not work for others, but look at the people within your team and actually kind of get them on the internet, do video kind of things, and do like little sound bites so that the business knows who they are, rather than some person in InfoSec nobody knows, and then the first person that the business sees when there's an InfoSec issue is that InfoSec guy or the woman, and they don't know who he or she is, and never seen them. Be seen and be known. What do I mean here? So, as I said earlier, you've got to do the meets and greets. You've got to go out there and kind of sell yourself. You've got to actually go to the teams and actually kind of build those relationships. Walkabout. I used to do walkabouts. People thought I was a bit nuts. I used to just go to random kind of departments and say, hi, I'm Mo. I work in InfoSec. And it builds that, and then slowly people begin to build that respect. You know, when management has briefings and they kind of stand up and they begin to talk about objectives and kind of successes over the last month. I worked somewhere, and that used to happen every, I think, week they did it. And I said to the InfoSec team, well, why don't you have a little spot in there? Why don't you kind of get up and say, all right, this is InfoSec and these things happen and this has been in the news, something that's of the now and people get, and share some data, share some info, a couple of minutes. And people said, well, we've never approached management to be there. We nobody in the team wants to do it. I was like, well, you're trying to kind of sell it to the business, but you're not making an effort to actually get up and do anything. And when you've kind of got these things going, the last word is kind of, you've got to keep it going. You can't just say, right, well, this is a one-off thing and we've done it now, and you stop, because with everything in life, once you've got the ball rolling, you need to keep it going. Job shadows. So, again, we've got to, bursting your bubble is kind of, you've got to go and instigate the job shadow stuff. I've seen a place where they did that, and sometimes it works. There's obviously places where it will be a little bit more difficult to do, but on the whole, people welcome it when you say, hey, listen, come spend half a day with InfoSec and we'll show you what we do and how we do it. And then people reciprocate it. So you can go and sit with legal and HR and any other department within the company to say, look, we'd like to see what you do. And then from doing that, you see what they go through on a daily basis, what their issues are, and you spot things. You say, actually, do you know what? There's something coming up in one of the projects that might help you to do this easier and as secure as possible. And it's got to be instigated by the InfoSec team. Whoever leads it needs to be able to say, right, these are the approaches that we need to take. You've got to be able to share information. Talk to the business about how many passwords resets you had and how many incidents you solved, and build something where you actually share that info. Because again, we're too siloed. We kind of do the things and nobody really knows about it, and we don't kind of celebrate our successes type thing. So you've got to share the information, and that it all comes down to being open. Again, we all know that InfoSec has always been you're a blocker. You always kind of get in the way of us doing things. Well, if you're open and you share information and you instigate those sort of relationships, people will begin to understand you a lot better. Because you need to understand the business in order to actually sell yourself and actually market yourself and brand the team and actually become somebody who people can trust and people can know and say, right, well, you know what? I've seen something that looks a bit dodgy. I know who to go to report it to, or something along those lines. So people actually, you've built that relationship. You've popped your bubble, and that's the kind of sort of take that I've taken on it over the last, I'm counting now, 10, 11 years. So it's actually being open. So my final slide. Who's done a bit of electronics in their time? You've got the analog and digital. So as humans, we're kind of analog creatures. We're continuously variable, right? But we're always applying kind of digital solutions to things. And as soon as we kind of understand that it's all about people and actually building the right relationships, we will begin to move forward. And yes, technical solutions have their place, but ultimately it's about being open, doing the simple things, and people begin to actually, things will resonate, and you'll actually begin to get the message out there a lot better than we have been. So I think, for me, that may well be it. Thank you very much, SteelCon. I think I'm done. Yeah, I'm done. Thank you very much. Thank you.